Well, farmers struggling to get food on Australian tables will be getting a lift. A new online hub is being launched by the New South Wales government, connecting job seekers with work available in regional areas. The number of working holiday visa holders in Australia is down by almost 40%, meaning regional farmers are at a bit of a loss when it comes to staffing their harvests. Let's bring in my panel, Melbourne City Councillor Nick Rees and Sky News Outsider co-host, of course, Herald Sun columnist Rita Panahi, joining me from Melbourne. I've got to start with you, Nick. Do you think we need to wind up job seeker earlier outside of Victoria than perhaps we are, given that, you know, people under the age of 30 should be made to go and take some of these urgent jobs in the regional areas?
Yes. Look, there's other interventions I would consider ahead of winding up JobKeeper early. I think one of those should be, I think the government could do more work about around allowing people, for example, from New Zealand to come to Australia to work on those farms, with livestock owners. And there's a long tradition of New Zealand shearers coming to Australia. I don't see why that shouldn't be allowed to occur this year, given the COVID-19 numbers we've got in New Zealand. And then secondly, I think we need to start allowing more freedom of movement for agricultural workers. I mean, the fact is we know a lot more about COVID-19 than we did 6 months ago. We know how the disease works. We know the safety precautions that can be put in place. And given how low the COVID-19 numbers are now outside of Victoria, I think a freedom of movement for agricultural workers is something that they should be exploring before making wholesale changes to JobKeeper and Job Seeker, which may have unintended negative consequences.
The problem, Rita, is, and I know family members have got farms and I get out and about in the country, you get out to a lot of these farming communities and most of their workers are foreigners. They're either foreign students, they're people coming from the Pacific Islands. Nick just talked about shearers. People I know that have got merinos that need shearing can't get Australian shearers anymore. They have to bring in the shearers, mainly Maoris, from New Zealand to, excellent expert shearers, but they can't get locals who want the jobs. We've got soft, haven't we? Particularly when you're getting sort of double the dole. Don't we have to get unemployed Australians doing some of these jobs?
Oh, absolutely. We've already approved 200 fruit pickers to come in from Vanuatu to work in the NT, and I'm sure there'll be other exemptions made. Our borders are closed, but I think they will make exemptions just so our farmers aren't going to have their produce rotting on the trees. And at a time when we've got a huge increase in unemployment, you would think there would be people just wanting to be there, wanting to do anything to earn a crust, but the job seeker being doubled, particularly for those who are, I've never understood that. I understand doing that for people who've lost their job through this pandemic and the forced business closures, but why were people who were already unemployed before the pandemic hit having their benefits double? That never made sense to me, and I think we're going to see some impact from that where people may be less likely to take on these roles that aren't paying an enormous salary, but they are hugely important to our economy.
Nick, I listened carefully to the Premier today. He didn't really make the case for extending the state of emergency for 12 months. I think he made the case to extend it by a month or so and then revisit it. But the open-ended sort of, 12 to 18-month extraordinary powers, I don't think Victorians are going to cop that.
Yes, I think this is an extremely vexing issue, but it's one that has to be evidence-based. And I think what the Premier was saying today was he didn't have the evidence in front of him to be able to make a definitive decision about that timeline. So he was being honest with the Victorian people and saying that he's keeping his options open. I understand that that's very frustrating, but I guess it's the Premier being truthful about what he thinks the decisions are that are going to be made based on the evidence he's got in front of him.
I take it it's being a bit half-cocked, but we will differ there, given you're Labor and I'm not. Rita, I want to go to another issue too. This is something I've followed closely in North Richmond. A number of positive COVID cases out of the heroin and ice and many other illegal drugs injecting room recorded in the past fortnight. Now, no surprises here. The centre, I'm told, is allowed to remain open beyond the curfew And there are also plenty of reports of people in the area breaking social distancing rules, not just to use, but obviously all the dealers come to where the injecting room is. We've heard up to 300 people a day are crossing from one side of Melbourne to get there. Now, why should everyone else have to abide by the 5K radius rule to do your walk and get your groceries? But if you want illegal drugs, doesn't matter, the rules don't apply.
It really is peak Victoria, isn't it? It's mad. You can't go 7Ks from your home to put some flowers on your loved one's grave. That could get you fined. But you can go across town after curfew to inject some ice at a facility in Richmond. And, of course, if you are breaking the law in that manner, probably a huge priority isn't wearing masks. And a lot of the locals there say that they had issues with people not only not socially distancing but not wearing masks, and I don't think that would come as a surprise to anybody. But it is. It's just these contradictions at a state of disaster with a government that's got no idea, no long-term plan to get us out of this. All their eggs are in the vaccine basket. But Dan Andrews all but admitted that today. And he's willing to keep extending this state of emergency until there's a vaccine, if there is a vaccine. That seems to be their only plan. There's no consideration to how we're going to learn to live with this virus in the event that a vaccine isn't going to be available and quickly.
Another one, I think, that's peak Victoria, Bayside City Council, Nick. This is in Melbourne's southeast suburban area. They want to ban the barbecue. What's this about?
Yeah, well, I'm in the city of Melbourne, Peta Credlin, so I just want all viewers to know that in Melbourne, the barbecues can continue to go strong. I cannot explain what's going on there in the Bayside area there. I think it's got something to do with smells and odours, but I would have said that the barbecue is about as Australian as you get. I've got to just jump back to Peter's,
I'm going to run out of time.
Outrageous claims about the safe injecting room. I mean, it's a health facility. It remains open because it saves lives. In fact, if anything, it's helping keep COVID-19 numbers down because it provides masks to people, it provides tests to people, and it provides health messages to at-risk people.
I drive past the injecting room every single time I go to the fruit and veggie shop, and let me tell you, there's no social distancing, there's no masks. It's just a breach of all the rules that the rest of us, we're all in this together, abide by. Just before we go, thank you for your time, Rita Panahi, Nick Rees. But before I go, I want to just show you something that looks like it could go the way of a dodo. It soon should be banned. They say the BBC, Black Lives Matter, they're looking at no more proms, no more Rule Britannia. Land of Hope and Glory gone as well. Have a look.